Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be discussing the controversial yet ill fates of different Wings of Fire characters and whether or not they deserved what they got. This video does contain spoilers for the Poison Jungle, so if you haven't yet finished the series and don't wish to be spoiled, then please click off. Also, before we start the video, a huge shout out to my patrons. 𝙈𝙤𝙬𝙁𝙗, Drag1195, Springtail Productions, 3 Moons, Oretrix, and JustAGrookey. Thank you so much for supporting me. Links to their social medias are in the description down below. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video. Viper is definitely one of the characters I've thought of the most in regard to her death. For those of you who forgot, Viper was one of the false dragons of Destiny in Book 4, and arguably the most aggressive of them all. She treated Fatespeaker horribly, openly telling her that she would kill her if given the chance. And yet, through some of her dialogue, we see Viper's true feelings and why she acts the way she does. Before she attempts to kill Fatespeaker, we get this honest line from her. "This is your fault! I could be back at camp with my parents if it weren't for your stupid tribe!" I think what a lot of people forget is that Viper was just a dragonette. And like she mentioned here, she would have been living a normal life in her tribe if not for the Nightwings taking her life away from her without a choice. The main problem with her treatment of Fatespeaker is that she's blaming the wrong dragon. It's not her fault she's a Nightwing. The real dragons she should be blaming are Morrosier and Blister. Even though she was a horrible dragon during her short lifetime, we actually know why she was the way she was. And if Viper were to have survived, I honestly feel like she could have ended up like Flame in a way. If Viper hadn't died that day, she likely would have gone to Jade Mountain Academy after spending some time with her family when the war ended. She likely wouldn't have gone by choice, especially knowing Fatespeaker was there with Starflight, but having to go could have been one of the best things to ever happen to her. My heart hurts knowing how she could have changed if she didn't meet her end that day. There's a good chance Viper's heart would have softened even just a little after the end of the war and a new beginning for the continent. Similar to Carnelian, she would go, not by choice, to Jade Mountain Academy, but in her case, she'd actually find herself enjoying the company of others and regretting how she had treated Fatespeaker in the past. And speaking of Carnelian, she's another dragon who I really think didn't deserve what she got. On the outside, she was cold, commanding, and aggressive. Before her death, we got to see some of the real her that was hidden down deep. Carnelian had hopes and dreams and ultimately just wanted to prove herself to others. She was insecure of how other dragons perceived her, and masked those feelings by judging others instead. If you look at her dialogue, you can really see how much Carnelian was hurting inside. And so, when she died in the cave explosion, I found myself realizing just how tragic her story really was. Similar to Viper, I think with time and a lot of encouragement from others, she may have changed. And while I don't think her chances of becoming an entirely different dragon are as high as they would be for Viper, I still think Carnelian had the potential to grow, or at least achieve her dreams. Imagine Carnelian standing by Queen Ruby's side, proud to be serving her, and having Ruby act as a sort of mother figure in her life, being that encouragement she really needed. Imagine a scene years down the line where Moon sees Carnelian guarding the Queen and talks with her. We could see how much she's changed, and how happy she truly is after these new experiences. She would have felt embarrassed at her past attitude and insecurities, but ever since has resolved to do better. We could have clearly seen it in how she would interact with Moon briefly in this scene. If the story went like this moment could have been a really heartfelt one and proof that dragons can change under the right circumstances. And so can people. And lastly, another Wings of Fire character's fate I found myself thinking about is Hawthorn and his life leading to his demise at the Talons of Willow. Hawthorn wasn't entirely a bad dragon before the Other Mind took its toll on him. He only tried to protect his tribe, but his plan backfired and he was isolated and rejected due to his failure. His only command was to find a cure. For over 50 years he lived alone in the eye of the jungle. After years of isolation and failing to find a way to stop Wasp and her newfound powers, Hawthorn began to give in to the Other Mind. After all, it was the only form of company he still had left, and that's how it manipulated him. Over the years, it successfully made Hawthorn its primary host, chipping away any of the real him that remained. At the time we first see him in the series, he's teetering on the border of insanity. But was it really his fault? The Other Mind controlled and manipulated him once he gave into it, because the real Hawthorn regretted the mistake he had made in giving Wasp her powers, and said that isolation was what he deserved. And by the end, there really was nothing, or at least very little of him, still left inside. Everything was buried so deep to the point where Hawthorn was unrecognizable. He eventually met his demise after being killed by Willow so the group could save Cricket. and honestly, there wasn't much of an option. Hawthorn was dangerous, especially after having been influenced so much by the other mind. He was gone too far to turn back, and while it pains me to say it, there really was no way out without him having to die. I just wish we could have gone back in time to save the past Hawthorn, the one Sequoia trusted. The one who would have done anything for his tribe, even if he would have found out they would hate him afterwards. So it's not Hawthorn that deserved his fate. It was the other mind, and thankfully Cottonmouth got what was coming to him. But anyways, what do you guys think? Are there more Wings of Fire characters you think deserved or didn't deserve to die? Let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!